Hi, third graders. Today we're going to be doing some preparation for lesson 7 tomorrow in class when we see each other in person. Tonight we're going to be working on the skill of finding what numbers come halfway between when counting by tens and hundreds. I want to remind you guys that the word half means exactly in the middle. This would be the halfway point on this line. That means that there's exactly the same amount on each side of the line. In math, it's always your job to look for patterns in the numbers. A pattern is something that you notice happening over and over again. So if you notice it happening again once, that's a coincidence. If you see it happening a third time or more, that's a pattern. That means that that's happening over and over again. When we're looking at our number line, counting by tens is where we're going to start today. You'll notice that I already marked it down. So we have a 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. And then I ran out of room here, so I started again at 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, and then I stopped there. That's far enough for today. Let's zoom in on just one section of this number line. When I look from 0 to 10 and I see all of these little intervals in between, how much are each of those little tick marks worth? Good, you should have been thinking that each of these tick marks is worth 1, and I can prove it by double checking by counting from 0 to 10. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, perfect. Today's learning goal is finding the halfway point between 0 and 10. See if you can figure it out. What number comes halfway or in between 0 and 10? Write it on your paper right now. You should have written that the number 5 comes between 0 and 10 halfway. I know this because there's 4 on this side, 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's 4 on this side, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's look at our next section from 10 to 20. So just this part right here. What comes halfway in between 10 and 20? What number comes between? Halfway. Write it on your paper if you haven't already. Good. You should have written that halfway between 10 and 20 is 15. So I have 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So that's why I know it's 15. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4 on this side, and there's 4 on this side. I know that it's halfway between because it's equal. Okay, let's look between 20 and 30. What number comes between those? Write it down. The answer is 25. There's 4 on this side, 4 on this side. That comes right in the middle of 20 and 30. You probably see the pattern in what we're doing, at least, that we're going to be finding the number that's halfway between each of the tens that we counted. What's halfway between 30 and 40? Write it down now. The answer is 35. What's halfway between 40 and 50? Write it down now. You should have put 45. What's halfway between 50 and 60? Write it down now. You should have put 55. What's halfway between 60 and 70? Write it down now. 65. What's halfway between 70 and 80? Write it down now. You should have put 75. Okay, let's look between 90 and 100. Write the halfway. You should have put 95. What's between 100 and 110? You should have put 105. What's halfway between 110 and 120? you should have put 115. Let's end our last one going between 120 and 130. 125. Zooming back out and looking at the number line, what's the pattern that you guys notice with the numbers that come between halfway when counting by tens? I hope that you all noticed that it always is ending in a 5. So we have 5, 15, 25, 35, 45, 55, 65, 75. Oops, we forgot to do between 80 and 90. So if you follow the pattern, it would be 85, 95, 105, 115, 125. So it always ends in that 5. Let's look for patterns again, but this time when we're counting by 100. Remember, when we're counting by hundreds, we're just going 0, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1,000. What number comes in between each 100 when we're talking about the halfway point? Looking between 0 and 100, when I zoom in, how much are each of these tick marks worth this time? I know that they're not worth 1, because if I was counting by 1, I would not get to 100 in time. It would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh wait, I don't have enough room. It ended too quick. Okay, so how much are each of these tick marks worth? Go ahead and take a look at that and see if you can figure it out. You should have said that each of these tick marks is worth 10 this time. So it's like I zoomed out on our number line. Now all of my ones are still there. It's just that they're really tiny on the inside over here. They're just invisible because I've zoomed out so far. So they're still there though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They're still there. They're so small and far away right now that we can't really see them. So each of these tick marks is worth 10 today when we're counting by 100s. So it would be like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Wow, it's even hard to write those in without squishing them together too much because we've zoomed so far out. When we're looking at this, what's the number that's halfway in between 0 and 100? That when I put a mark there, that there's an equal side on, or an equal amount on both sides, and that would be 50. So 50 is our halfway point between 0 and 100. And I'm going to rewrite that again, but bigger over it. Let's zoom in and look between 100 and 200. What number comes halfway in between? Write that on your paper now. All right, let's count. So I can see that the halfway point is right here, and it's nice because this line is still drawn longer to show me where the halfway point is. Some of you probably already noticed that already. So 110, 120, 130, 140, 150 comes right in the middle. How did you do? Let's move between 200 and 300. Write down the number that comes in the middle now. You should have written 250. So 200, 210, 220, 230, 240, 250 comes in the middle. Okay, between 300 and 400. What comes in the middle? Write it down now. Good, you should have written 350. What comes halfway between 400 and 500? 450. What comes between 500 and 600? Good, 550. I'm going to zoom back out and I want you guys to notice what's going on. Look at the pattern. What's happening over and over again? What number comes halfway between when you're counting by hundreds? You should have noticed that 50 comes in between two numbers when you're counting by hundreds. So 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 50. So if you're trying to find a number that's halfway in between two hundreds, it's going to have a 5 in the tens place. So what pattern do you guys notice when we're looking at our tens number line and our hundreds number line? What digit do you see coming up over and over again? Yeah, you're definitely seeing that 5. So when we're counting by tens, we're always going to see that 5 in the ones place when we're finding the halfway point. And when we're counting by hundreds, we're going to see that 5 again, but this time it's in the tens place. So it comes out as a 50, 50, 50, 50, 50, 50 in between the two hundreds. For our final problem tonight, on number 1, what number comes halfway between, and for A, 20 and 30, and for B, 200 and 300. On number 2, it's bonus if you want to be extra awesome. Please find things in your house that weigh about a gram or close to it. Remember, a gram is about the weight of a single paper clip. That's my little paper clip. All right, you guys, have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. Get some rest tonight. Don't forget to do your reading, and we'll see you in the morning. Good night.